Okay, everyone. Well, thank you for coming to TiggerCoins' first video recorded AMA. This is going to be covering transaction types and how to spot scams via those transaction types and kind of what to look for when you're looking at both new cryptos and also the devs that run them, because that's also very important since, a lot of us, we like to have many different projects and many things in the fire. So at this time, feel free to ask questions either in voice chat or through the Telegram. And we're going to go ahead and get started. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to pull up a couple just different contracts, different addresses. We're going to show just a few things that they can do here. So this is a rug called Singus Launch. And all these that we're going to be showing here today are all either rugs or just failed tokens. So nothing to invest in, nothing that you want to shill for. So what we're going to look at right down here, I want to make sure this shows, is the add liquidity function that we're seeing in here. This is what a lot of bots tend to look for right as a token is launched. So they get the contract address, they wait for this transaction to go through, and then bam, they start botting the launch, and then start buying. Ways that we can avoid this are unfortunately only by having an anti-bot function posted on either through pink sale if it was done with a pre-sale or through within the contract itself. But this is what that function essentially is. And then of course the remove liquidity function, very common in rugs as well. But that's what you need to look out for to see if a token is active before you start spamming chats. When's liquidity going to be added? When's this going to be added? This is exactly where it comes from, how it's added to it, and how the bots immediately grab it and start buying. Any questions on that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So for example, the first couple of blocks, could you not add the tax to be a higher rate on the first couple of blocks to stop them, so they're paying a higher tax on the first couple of blocks?
That is correct. You actually can do, and it's actually a good suggestion to do so. Whenever you're starting with a token that has a market cap of under about 400K, over 400K, you don't have to worry about bots too much. But under that price point, you absolutely do want to start with a tax, like a 99% tax or 90%. For some contracts, like for our contract, even though we're not marketing below 400K for start, the maximum our tax can do is 30% because of the way that it scales. But even still, whatever the maximum that you could put it at, that's what you want to set it to. Then launch the liquidity, wait a couple of minutes or so, and then you can go ahead and begin to set your other parameters. Like for instance, you want to exclude the liquidity pool from getting taxed. That's an important one. You don't want the liquidity pool getting reflections or taxes or anything else like that. And generally, for other things, like say for instance, if you have a utility function like a swap or a game or whatnot, the actual contract interaction with that you want to have excluded at that point in time too. Generally, you do that right as you've added liquidity or right before.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So next one. So this right here this is for called Pink Puzzle. It was a game. Unfortunately, the thing failed horrendously. Great, cool little game though. This was not a rug. But this right here, they did. This had a failed pre-sale. Which doesn't happen too often in our space. Generally, it comes down to very poor marketing. So what essentially the devs had done at this point is they had already launched the liquidity. They had already gone through the whole process. So then they had to do a claim tokens function. And then they relocked it back into pink sale in order to kind of fix some of the issues and redo it. Unfortunately, it still failed, and then they had to re-add liquidity, and they just did a fair launch, and then it failed even harder. But when you see a claim tokens function, that is perfectly fine. That's nothing to ever be worried about, because typically when you see airdrops, you see it say airdrop. Claim tokens is just a dev function, as well as a token lock. That's with a pink sale. That's their own little thing there as well. Those are all internal transactions. Those are ones to not really be worried about or concerned about. But I encourage everyone to start looking at these things before they invest, because this is what gets you better knowledge and better, smarter investment.
Yeah, I think the only thing with Pink Sale is make sure that you're on Pink Sale Finance, because there is like a clone of Pink Sale, so you need to make sure you're on Pink Sale Finance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now this one right here. Okay, so this right here, this is a developer wallet. This is a scammer's wallet. He's rugged numerous projects over the last couple of years. It's just one I've been kind of tracking and making sure of. So this one right here, we can kind of see he's transferred BNB to a marketing wallet. He's launched a contract. This was when you see contract creation. This means that it was launched with Web3. Wasn't launched with a third party like PigSale or IOBit or any of those. This was strictly from their origination, which is how I launch tokens, which is how many devs launch tokens. Nothing wrong with that there. So now in this case, their particular contract already had a 99% tax, so he didn't have to do anything. He just added the liquidity to it and let it go, and then he set the fee. Then, as correct, you would exclude the liquidity pool from fee, exclude any other wallets that you have from fee. So all this adds up very well for, okay, this is all legitimate. A dev would do this. And then after about 100 days or so, he unlocked the token, removed the liquidity, and then just rugged the whole thing after a 100-day period. So I'm not going to say the token that this was for, but it's this is basically what's just one of those long pull rugs where they set the lock token liquidity to 90 days or 120 days. In fact, I think this one was 90-day lock. And then as it starts to grow, I think this one hits about to be a million, 1.2 market cap, and then just bam, just took all the liquidity right out of it. So you do have to be careful when you see devs launch tokens that have in their contracts 99% taxes or 90% taxes from the get-go. So because it just makes you want to be a little wary, and you want to check out what these devs are doing, what their internal transactions are. That's one dev wallet. Now, this is another dev wallet. This was... trying to remember what the token was for. Oh, yeah, this was for Chimps. This was for Chimps. So the developer of Chimps, unfortunately, he contracted out the contract to someone to handle it, to manage it. And I always get very wary with projects that have lead developers that don't control their own contract themselves, because they can very easily essentially get the rug pulled underneath from them as well. And then they're the ones having to explain to their investors what happened. It's really one of the worst kinds of rugs that there can be, because it's even almost harder to expect. So my advice is always stay away from projects where the lead developer is not the contract, not necessarily the contract creator, just the contract holder. So in this case, this guy, he created the contract for them, set all the parameters, and then immediately started making constant adjustments to the project. And then in order to cash out, he used Tornado Cash, our favorite anonymous hiding for your wallet address. As well, especially if you see ever in a dev wallet or any kind of wallet that says tornadocash.proxy on any transaction, just stay the heck away. That is someone that is definitely looking to be to try to hide their identity, hide who they are, what they're doing, what they're moving. You want to avoid that at all possible. And then last bit, so this is another dev wallet. Very similar things, so just want to go over just one more time, a little bit more in depth into Tornado Cash. Alright, so Tornado Cash is a proxy service, and essentially any dev, or actually person in general, they just take it, they deposit BNB into this Tornado Cash, they take a fee, kind of like what PinkSale does, and then they just kind of move the money back. You're basically trusting them with your BNB, but if you're a scammer, you've taken the money anyways. Who cares if you lose it? It's not yours in the first place. But generally, they take it, mix it all up, and then shift it back to other individual accounts. It's as when you create a MetaMask or a Trust Wallet, you get a private key. Very, very similar thing. You have a transaction, you have a private key, and you can just withdraw it at any point in time that you want. Though they do recommend waiting a period of time just for whatchamacallit, just for transfer and tracing back sake. Okay. And then finally, our last bit is, of course, airdrops. And TiggerCoin, for example, will be doing an airdrop to a massive amount of people just to kind of generate buzz. Airdrops are fantastic for marketing, as well as if you, of course, have to launch a V2 or V3 token to airdrop your existing holders, just to spread goodwill and to make sure that they can keep trust in your project for you. But most people kind of get confused when it comes to airdrops as far as, okay, well, is this going to cost me money to take out? Is it going to cost them money? Do I have to transfer my tokens over to them so they can see? And there's a number of different ways that an airdrop can be done by a token, either if they're doing a V2 or if they're doing a marketing. So if they're doing a V2 or they're doing a marketing, typically what we would do is we would take a snapshot of a wallet. So say, for instance, let's see, BSC scan. I'm going to pick a random crypto. Flotion, sure, why not? All right, so we got 4,000 addresses. So I would just go to holders, and I would just download the CSV from it, which I can move over. So see, I would download the CSV. That gives me every single wallet address, every single amount that they have, percentages, everything that they have there. And from there, I can just take that entire list and upload it to an airdrop and mass distribute out any number of amount of tokens that I want to people. That's usually how it's done. Now, in the case of a V2, for a token, a lot of times what they'll do is they say, okay, send all of your tokens to this address, and then we'll go ahead and distribute that out. So that's what a cost upfront at airdrop is, where you're basically paying to send your tokens. You're paying that BSC fee or Ethereum fee or Polygon fee, whichever, in order to get another airdrop. The second airdrop does not cost you any amount of tokens to receive because they're just going right to you. So those are the two type of airdrops for that kind of token. The third kind is the claimed airdrops, such as like for Barbarian Warrior here, so which is a game that's going to be coming out soon at some point, though I think their development's halted. That's one where you go to their website, you hit claim airdrop, and then from there it's going to ask you to connect your wallet. You pay the BSC transaction fee, which is like I think like 60 or 70 cents depending, because it's a very small amount of tokens, and then you get your tokens. So you haven't necessarily paid for the tokens, you've only paid for the transaction fee. So, but those are the three ways that you typically would be involved with airdrops. Either someone just gives them to you for free, you have transferred your tokens over to them, paid that transaction fee, or you've paid a transaction fee to receive an airdrop in the first place. Okay. Any questions on that? None? All right. Well, that's essentially it for transaction types. At this time, I'd like to take any questions on TiggerCoin or questions related to contract crypto or in general.
All right, thank you.
Oh, my pleasure.
What happens to liquidity if it unlocks? Does it go straight to the wallet, or does it like if you have it locked on Mudra or whatever, and it unlocks after a certain period of time? Where does it go? Like, does it go straight to the wallet address or?
Excellent question. Okay, so when you have a locked liquidity, using a liquidity locker, either be a Mudra or whichever, that essentially gets transferred to a new address. Once it goes unlocked, you have the ability to claim it, kind of like what we saw with claim tokens. You have the ability to claim that liquidity pool back, and then it deposits it into your wallet that you have, the original wallet that you originated it from. At that point, it'll be a Cake LP, or if Mercury goes well, a Mercury LP or whichever. And then from there, you split the liquidity back apart and withdraw it.
Okay. Cool.
Any other questions?
When launch, sure.
So what we're looking at for launch, though, really is we're definitely looking towards the first couple weeks of April here. Really what we're kind of waiting for is for the partnership network to be built out. I've messaged and sent many messages to different organizations. I've gotten some responses back. Many of them, they have to talk with their board members because that's just the nature of dealing with nonprofits. They have boards. Things that can't be a single person's decisions. They have to be conferred with across multiple people. But there is absolutely interest in the space. It gives me a lot of confidence when I'm talking to these groups and organizations. And I can't wait till we actually get a couple things confirmed. And once we do, then we're going to hit pre-sale, and then I'm going to open the purse strings for our marketing, which has been very, very tight-lipped at the moment.